Hello YouTubies! I've put this video together today that is a collection of what I've found to be the top things that newer owners asked for in some of the online groups. If you're a new owner, you should be able to find out some top tips about owning a Boxster and what you should probably know that's helpful. If you're an experienced owner, let me know if you knew all of these, or indeed if maybe one of them you didn't and it was helpful. Join us for the ride. We're going to run through those things, no particular order. Let's get into it. The car's new to you, you're going to want to know how to put it in service mode. That's how you would access the top of the engine, and if you want to access the front, this might be you need to change an alternator, change a belt, access anything along the top there, the air filter for example. I've got a video showing how to do it. It takes a couple of minutes, but I'll run through the process very quickly. You start by opening the roof to about 3/4. You want the clamshell to be as high as it goes in its cycle. As you do that, you unclip the two the cables that support, if you like, the shape of the roof. They're on a ball and socket type joint. Unclip the fabric from the back, fold it up, and then there's a strap that you attach to the front of the roof. You then need to remove whatever you've got sat under the rear window. This might be just a carpet, this might be a subwoofer, this might be the compartment tray. And if you want to get to the front of the engine, seats all the way forward, similar thing, you lift out the carpet in the front, and there's a few pieces for it explained in that video as well. And you unscrew the panel that's behind that's bolted in, and then you can access the front. Learn how to do it, you might need to one day. Your car will beep at you when locking it on the remote if something is not shut. So, demonstration. Everything's shut, including the glove boxes, all of the boot, bonnet, everything down. Lock the car, no beeps. Unlock the car. Just open the centre dash console glove box. Lock the car. There's your beep. That's telling you you have not shut your glove box properly, or it might be one of your compartments is open. So if you get that beep, that's all it is. Go in, make sure that's closed. The next one we're going to talk about is the drain holes. You want to pay particular attention to this if your car lives outside, you live somewhere wet, you drive it in the rain quite a lot, particularly around autumn time, because there's all sorts of leaves and stuff blowing around, and honestly these are more of a problem than people realise. Not a hard thing to do, but something you want to really make sure you stay on top of. Once a year, whatever it is, give them a clean out, give them a check. Easier to check them than clean them. You pour a cup of water into the area where the drain hole is, see if that water returns out the bottom. If it doesn't, or it takes ages to do it, you've got a bit of a clog. Particular reason you need to pay attention to this, especially at the front, on the passenger side. In the UK, I think it's been the same in the US, but the other way around, is because you've got a very important ECU, immobilizery stuff under the passenger seat. If that drain hole becomes clogged, the water ends up coming in down the firewall into the passenger footwell, and everything there gets wet, and that could be thousands to get replaced. You will see if you're in any groups online or you look at any of the chat, this has happened to quite a lot of people. So clean the drain holes. There are 4 in the main body, and there's a little one in the petrol filler cap. I'm going to show you where they all are and make some suggestions on how you look after them. Very much want to look after this one if you live somewhere where the car is getting wet often. So to locate the drain holes at the back, you need the car in the service position. I do have another video that shows you how to do this if you don't know already. This is something you should learn how to do. We've mentioned it earlier in this video. I'm not showing you all the steps of doing it. But get the car into service position. Come into the back of the car. Hopefully we're going to see this okay for the light, or lack of. But just in the shadow there is your drain hole. You can put your finger down it and then you can actually feel where it's supposed to go. Any water that comes down the roof ends up falling into the drip tray there. And then the other one is in exactly the same position, just on the other side. I come around over the top, we can almost look down it. The camera can see better than my eyes here. So drip some water down there, see if it comes out. You can use a vacuum cleaner, you can use compressed air, or you can use the trombone cleaner. The trombone cleaner looks a little bit like this flexible dipstick here. You've got this kind of flexy but still kind of stiff, like a really thick guitar string. That's what it's like to me. You have brushes on each end, and there's a certain size. If you Google it, they will fit down there. See a lot of people have a lot of good effects with that. I don't have one because I've only cleaned the drain holes once, and the car's lived in the garage the last 8 years. Right, coming around to the front of the car, this is where possibly the most critical of these is. You need to pop the bonnet or frunk or hood or whatever you call it and remove the first plastic battery cover that sits over there. That's a hand tool, your hands job. If you're going to be cleaning them and needing to access them, what you also want to do would be remove this screw here, lift up this plastic cover, and then it just unclips from the front here. You just literally pull it forward so you can get in. I'm going to show you the passenger side one first. This one in my case is the most critical for the side of my car where the ECU is. So you see we come down over the battery, and just to the right here you can see the hole there, but I'm going to use a pokey stick just to show you and point there. That is the drain hole. That's the critical guy in my sense if my car was outside. And I'm just going to rearrange the light and show you the one on what would be my driver's side. Not a tall guy, so I've ended up standing in this frunk compartment more times than I can count. But coming over left-hand side of the battery, in this case, just down here, the camera might not focus, but there's a circle, you'll see where I just pointed that. That is my driver's side drain hole. Looks like it could actually benefit from a small clean. Last but not least, there is a fifth one just at the bottom of the petrol cap here. And very rarely hear about this one getting clogged. In quite a few groups online of people who own these cars. But for reference, there it is. Similar situation if you want to get it cleaned. Your key has a sort of power, your car key has a power save function. If you lock the car and you leave it for, it's normally between 5 and 7 days, it seems to vary. I think it's 5 days with my case. Leave it for 5 days, you come back to unlock the car and it will not work on the remote. It's quite normal, it's a power save mode. All you need to do, put your key in your manual key lock, unlock the door, put the key in the ignition. Within 10 seconds or the alarm is going to go off, turn it to the first point on the turn, and the car will remember the key, will wake everything back up, and then you'll be able to use the button. When you go to lock the car, the first time after doing this, so it's quite normal, you get in, start the car, absolutely no problem, off you go. You'll go to button lock your car when you get to where you're going. The car will not lock, it will unlock because it hasn't been unlocked on the key. So if you have that happen, just pull your door handle when you think you've locked the car, check you've actually done it. White smoke on the start-up of these coming out of the exhaust is quite normal as long as it lasts for less than a minute or so. It's characteristic of the flat engine. It's one of the things a lot of people will get concerned about initially. If you have white smoke on start-up, it lasts for less than a minute, you're absolutely fine. It's very normal for these engines just to do with oil residue sitting in the flat engine in the way that it does. Quick mention for some of the quirkier bits for these cars. If your button for your roof is not working, make sure your handbrake is engaged. The roof will not work if the handbrake is not on, and the car knows it's on when the light on the dash comes on. If your windows are not dropping when you're opening the doors, which they need to just slightly to come under the roof, but they will work on the controls. Your most likely culprit, and this happens often, is the micro switch. Here's an example of one of the door handles inside. You can see there. There's the little guy. Hear him clicking away. So as you open, this is spare. This isn't. I've just pulled this off the car. As you go to open the door, you hear it just disengages before the door is actually going to release the unlock or release mechanism to open, and that tells the car drop the windows slightly. They're probably your most likely culprit if the windows are still operating correctly. If the windows are not operating correctly, the most likely culprit for that is either the motor, which you will be able to hear trying to work, or they will be stretching the cables in the lifting mechanism. You see a lot of people complaining about it. The cars are 20 years old. They're going to be your most likely things if any of those things occur. Coil packs. Because of where the engine is in this car, right at the bottom, it's obviously going through a lot of heat, and then it's also an area that will get a lot wet. You get a lot of water picked up from the road if it's you live in a wet area. They are prone to cracking. Water gets in, they swell, they start failing. They are often the culprit for a misfire on these cars. There's the original sort of design, which is a bit shallower and uses the shorter screws. They are more prone to this. There are updated versions that you can get from this from various manufacturers. If you watch my spark plug and coil pack video, you'll see I wasn't particularly impressed with the Beru ones, which is one that's highly recommended, weirdly enough. But you can either get the uprated versions, or you can just make sure you pay attention to them, check them every now and again, because they will crack after a few years. Make sure you're on top of it. A highly discussed element of these cars and problem area for people without the experience of owning one before is the battery. Often this is a second car, they'll be left sitting for a while and the battery might discharge and you will not be able to start it. In the later versions of these, there is a problem presented with this because the switch to get to the battery, where you might want to get to charge it, is electric. And if the car's dead, you can't get in the bonnet, the frunk, the hood, whatever you want to call it. Couple of options to get around this. If you've not prevented this happening, you will have these options to try to then get to the battery to charge it. The first one being in the fuse panel down here. You can see I've already pulled off the cover. You have this red positive terminal that you can pull out. Attach your positive there from a high power jump pack and your negative to one of the metal bits in the door to provide the ground. I always use this guy here. And you provide enough power from another battery or high power jump pack to be able to jump the car, or give the car enough power to operate that, release the bonnet, get to the battery. This will not charge the car. The other option you have is, as standard, the standard location, behind this headlight, underneath it, down there runs a steel cable that you can pull as the emergency release. You access it by going through this wheel cover. If your locking wheel nut is in there, you're not going to be able to take the wheel off, so you're going to have to do it with the wheels turned and the best you can, and frankly it's a pain in the butt. However, a lot of people who have bought these realise previous owners, behind the tow eye hook, they have placed the cable there for easier access. That makes a lot of sense. The actual best thing to do, I have found, which I've made another video about, a lot of people have seen and sort of like the idea of, is I have wired my trickle charger to come through the firewall and sit down here. It actually tucks away up there when I'm not using it, and I can then just give the car enough charge to be able to start, and I don't have to worry about having another battery. And a lot of people will only have a sort of a slow battery charger, if you like. That's enough power to then get the bonnet open. Well, actually I can fully charge the battery that way if I want to. Check out the other video if you want to do that. One of the best pieces of sort of preventative maintenance you can do for an absolute headache otherwise if you're trying to go find that cable. And I have heard horror stories of the cable snapping and things like that. So check out that other video. Best way to trickle charge your car. 986 from the factory would have come with a toolkit. There's what you might expect to be in here for like changing a wheel and things like that. There is a tow hook that you can attach to the areas in the back of the front bumper, well, through the bumpers if you need to pull the car. You've got your wheel pin, which made for a very viewed YouTube short of mine, which Americans didn't quite understand why we even have these. Very helpful for hanging a wheel on, taking the weight off. If you've seen the short, you know what I'm talking about. The unusual tool in here is this. This is the headlight removal tool for this car. I'll show you how it works in a second, but you pop it in, you turn it towards the car, if you like, clockwise, and the whole headlight removes and you can change the bulbs. Actually quite easy. If you don't have one of these kits and you don't want to try and source that particular tool, all you need is a 5mm socket. That's effectively what it is, but it's just very narrow. So one of these like narrow nosed ones is all you need. This just was one of the ones that was in my quite standard cheap small socket set. Works just as well, if not better, because you can put an extension on it. Hopefully this will be picked up well enough from the camera, but to change any of the bulbs in these lights, you unscrew this little plastic guy here. You pull forward the carpet and you'll see this, hopefully your car's still got them, but you'll see this kind of rubber plug. You pop it out and then this would simply insert there until it lands on the nut and turn it that way. And you heard the noise, that means it's working if you watch the light. And all I've got to do is pull it out, put it back in, find its place, and you twist it the other way till it cracks. There we go, headlight secured. And then you just put everything back together. Changing the headlight or bulbs in the front of these cars is so easy that I challenge myself to do it in under a minute. Cut to that footage.
Placing the headlight, placing the YouTube short, a side light.
For those of you blessed with the gift of height, unlike myself, If you find the car is a bit difficult to fit in, and particularly if your leg rests on the center console, there is an answer. The official answer would be something called a GT3 console delete, where you effectively remove the bottom of the center console, which is often accessory points, so things like the CD or salami trays or just the cubby hole, and you replace it with what they were doing in the 996 GT3s at the time. So I have created my own. I'm not the tallest person by any stretch, but I did find my leg was resting on it. But there is an answer if you're taller and you want to enjoy these cars, because I will say they maybe weren't thinking about the taller people when they designed it all, but there is an option, and you've certainly got people very north of 6 foot who managed to get on just by taking out that centre console.
And another thing to note, which was a suggestion from Tom, thanks Tom, to include in this video, is that some of these controls are effectively modular and can be moved around. Now in a standard car, you wouldn't have this panel here, you would have the other two options, which would include possibly a cubby hole, CD tray, as I've said. However, if you've got the electronic controls and you had like your air conditioning control here, you can simply put it forwards, unplug it, move that plug further down, and then have them lower down if you should want to. A lot of people will opt to do that to swap the stereo for like a double din, for example. So they're modular, you can move them around to your heart's desire. If you've not got the electronic ones like I have, which was a conscious choice when I bought the car, because I previously had one with air conditioning that I never used, you can't move them because they won't go particularly far.
For a little bit of general good housekeeping, if you like, with these cars, would highly recommend getting a OBD2 scanner. I have a fancy one that is got specific software for being able to read this car. It's not super fancy, so I can't do airbag stuff, but that cost me about 120 quid. Everything that it can do, this Bluetooth dongle cost me about 3 quid, and an app on my phone called Talk Pro can do it as well. That's also connected to the internet, so the minute you've got a code, it scans it, it's able to give you more information, potentially even link you to websites and areas where you can get information on how to fix it and even all the parts. Highly recommend it. It's a 20-year-old car. It will chuck you a code once in a while, helps to be able to scan it. I had an incident where having this, I keep it in the car because it's so small, having it in the car saved me a hell of a headache, frankly, and meant I didn't need to be recovered 60 miles from home. The code wasn't anything sinister, so I cleared it so I could just get the car to come home. So there you have some top things to know about owning these cars, little quirks, things like that. If you enjoyed the video, please give it the thumbs up. If you want to help support us and grow the channel and see what we've got in store for this car and others in the future, please consider subscribing. I've got some big plans for 2025, just working out how I'm going to do them, not just with this car but with some others as well. And if you want to give us a follow on Instagram or TikTok, we're at Granty's Garage, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.